He should just be able to walk up to them and be that brick wall, be that gigantic tank.
Yep, he can peel, he can slow or root the Zeri. The Everfrost is going to be so valuable, and it's really difficult to punish Ryze, who stands forward with the Everfrost while there's a Jace poking behind, a Jinx poking behind. And if Akali is killed, you know, at the beginning of this fight, or Lee Sin is killed early trying to look for an engage, and Jinx gets excited, it becomes very easy for Gen G to win the ensuing 5v5 fight. It also feels like a matchup here for the Ryze where, you know, you don't always feel incredibly comfortable into an Akali, but as Chovy here, you feel like I can dominate this one. Like, I'm going to get so much farm, I'm going to suck up every CS on the map, and I am going to overwhelm this team with my map presence, with my laning.
I'm going to be one of the only 3 people to get a win on Ryze this season as well, is something that he will be able to say theoretically if he does manage to win this game. So far, he's tried to play it one time, I believe. Yes, he has. Didn't find the victory, and he's going to give it another crack. So this is a very powerful composition. Pretty standard, but I think that they have a lot of strong picks. They have a lot of comfort, and they have the facilitative, you know, supportive units like the Poppy, like the Nautilus. Should just be good, right? And it should just allow Gen G to play around their strengths in this very strange composition. Of course, just to catch you guys up, Peanut unfortunately tested positive, and so therefore is unable to play. He had a bit of contact with Lehens and Score, and so they are both not here either. And as you can see, Young J and Lospa are heroically stepping in here for Gen G. And let's see whether it changes this team that only lost once so far. It was against KT. KT, who then went on to lose to Live Sandbox.
Yeah.
And now we'll just have to see whether that means Live Sandbox better than KT, better than Gen G. Does that mean Live Sandbox better than Gen G?
Well, we'll find out in this best of 3 at least whether they're better than Emergency Gen G. And it's kind of, you know, it's kind of unfortunate for Gen G because they're riding just on the edge, the shadow of T1, and even a win over T1 doesn't put them ahead in the standings, puts them ahead in head-to-head. But if they end up losing this to Live Sandbox, it really hurts their chances, and it also feels very lucky for Live Sandbox because now your toughest match of the week suddenly feels very, not very winnable, but you have a lot better of a chance. Like, you're feeling like, wow, this is like somebody's looking out for us, you know? Like, it's very lucky for them, and that's just unfortunately with the situation we have right now, how it goes. So take this if you can. As it's been since July. We haven't seen it, but it was against Live Sandbox as well.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Of course, Cleared not getting subbed out too much last season, and so therefore Young J was spending a fair bit of time on the bench. And yeah, Live Sandbox and it was loss, so let's hope that he can get his revenge here for his sake. And Lyra's comment about him as well. Compared to Lehens, he focuses on supporting the AD carry, prefers playing steadily over aggressive vision control.
He's a much more
reference to Lost.
Yeah, he's a much more you know, passive player from what I've seen.
Yeah, and you can see passively wandering away from Kayle here as Ruler is focusing on the wave. Pretty understandable, as Ice and Kayle not going to be able to put on too much pressure here in the early game. It is, of course, Zeri early, and that is not too much to worry about. As Chovy is pushing in closer, not something that you'd be too worried about if you're the Akali, right? You just want to try and get as much farm as you possibly can without dying.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting about Lospa is, in a lot of ways, because he's, to be totally frank, if you're an LCK fan, this guy seems like a nobody, right? He's not part of this roster. He's on the worst challenger team, right? And this is somebody who's subbing in for Lehens, who's such a famous player. Like, he's up there with people like Keria for being an aggressive support, having the flashy plays, as this is a winning matchup for Akali.
Theoretically, yeah.
And so Lospa actually feels like Peter in a lot of ways. Like, he suddenly appears, you know, he plays a more supportive style. He's very passive. He's not extremely aggressive like Effort. He's not a roamer per se.
Yeah.
And I do think that analogy is pretty appropriate here because he is a very similar player, and he might make some new fans tonight, you know, despite his history, and we'll see how he does.
Let's see how it goes. Ruler, of course, is certainly more of a bus driver in the lane, which is certainly good news for Lospa as well, who, as we mentioned earlier, might need a little bit of direction. As Doran versus Dove up here on the top side of the map, Dove just trying to show Doran that his gun is better, even though it doesn't transform. He's got another engage to come through here. Lospa could be in trouble. See whether he actually has to throw out the flash, and the answer is no. Flame Chompers come through, and that means that Kale cannot continue. I like the fact that Losper does hold on to the flash. It's Croco moving on in here as the ward does run out.
Yeah, this is really risky if Gen G try to push any further here without their jungler down here. Youngjae is backing out.
Oh no, Losper walks into the brush, and that is so easy for the first blood. That comes over to Croco. Right place, right time, but unfortunately the face check there, no vision available.
You can do that against an Enchanter support and still get away with it. You know, if you're up against a Lulu, I mean, besides Lux, right? You could do it against a Lulu, a Janna, maybe. You can get away with it against a Yuumi, but you cannot face check against a Leona, or you will die if there is anybody else there. And even if there's not, you might just straight up die. And they knew Youngjae wasn't there. Just unfortunately a little bit of a greedy call there from Lospa to try to poke his head in there.
Yeah. They didn't know that Croco was down there, but like you say, like I think they didn't really need that brush control with the wave pushing in anyway. But let's see whether Losp is going to be able to pull it together after that. Can be difficult. As you can see, Ruler is actually farming this one very, very nicely.
Yeah, Zeri, you know, often does struggle to CS in the early parts of the game before she gets her damage online, because her Q, it fires so rapidly, it's easy to CS with once you get a few items, but until then, your auto is just pitiful. Like, it's really miserable to lane, and it's really hard to CS, especially when you're outranged. So we see this a lot so far here in the LCK.
Yeah, Zeri has not been successful today, but did have a 2-0 day yesterday as she debuted here in the LCK. So certainly has been an interesting pick to keep track of. Even in her wins, it wasn't necessarily her that won, even though in her debut she picked up a quadra kill at the very end. It wasn't really about the Zeri. Yeah,
Zeri I feel like is a champion so far in the LCK here that's gone largely misunderstood by a lot of the teams who are trying to draft it. And you know, in this composition, I think there's a lot of ways to get targets low and finish them off with the Zeri, and I think it can work out. But it's going to be about execution again. Because it's not always, the Zeri games we've seen her pop off, it's not always about what she did, it's about what the team did to allow her to get into that position. And the Yuumi that has largely empowered it, we're not going to see today.
Yep.
It's not in these first two series so far.
And also, this time it's a Leona, which we haven't seen alongside the Zeri. It was, I believe, 2 games of Yuumi yesterday and then a game of Braum today. It wasn't successful. Not... There was definitely a lot of extra factors in that Kondong loss.
Yeah, only 2 teams that really prioritize Leona this much in the support role are Live Sandbox and Damwon Kia. You know, there were a lot of really high priority Leona picks for Damwon on red side that were somewhat puzzling to us, but it worked out for them. And it is Kale's most played and his best win rate, so we'll see if he can keep it up here in this game. First blood is massive, going to lead to an early Drake here, and with the Zeri comp like this and the slow early game for the Akali, they're kind of coasting right now as Live Sandbox.
They really are. Ruler as well is kind of coasting at the same time. Like if the Jinx is having a good time, then you're always pretty happy about how the state of the game is, just given the fact that she does scale so nicely. But still, this freedom that Ice is feeling on the Zeri, if you are a Gen G fan, should worry you just a little bit.
Jinx and Zeri, similar champions in how they scale and how much damage they can do in a team fight and how they can wipe everybody else out. Once that first kill is there, you feel safe, you go forward, you hit all those autos, Jinx gets excited, does a little bit of AoE. Zeri does only a lot of AoE all the time.
Zeri reminds me of Jinx, Samira, and Ezreal all mixed together. And maybe better than all of them. I don't know. We'll see. She does certainly feel like she has a relatively overloaded kit, even though it hasn't been successful too much here in the LCK thus far.
They announced the 12.4 nerf to her escape, like her dash goes over the walls. We'll see what happens with all that in the future, but
that's good. She's not going to be able to do quite as much graffiti around the map.
The setup here for Live Sandbox is pretty decent, and they're going to try to push this Herald away with the prio they have on top side, and it's a good thing for them because they are getting kind of pinned down in the bot lane. And this means Youngjae is just going to try to steal some of the camp away. They're going to look for turning this into a plate for the Rift Herald. And
this is really interesting, though, because Live Sandbox have taken both of the main objectives in the early stages and very early as well. Like, we've Got 3 minutes 20 on this next Drake, and the Herald just went down as well. So if Liv Sandbox can continue this kind of tempo play, I do really like it. Croco making use of the Lee Sin so far to really get to the places that he needs to be. But Gen.G not entirely threatened, you know, only 300 gold behind, and their carries are still farming.
Yeah, speaking of which, Chovy is just out here, you know, continuing to do extremely well, even post 6. He's Rise, he's going to be able to root the Akali. It's a tough time for closer in lane. It's going to be outside of the lane where he shines, mostly. But this is where, you know, Chovy gets a small advantage like this matchup, and he can really push it to a massive lead. And that's what I think Gen.G needs to do, is channel, you know, the 2021 Chovy on Hanwha Life Esports here a little bit.
We were having a conversation about this earlier. It's like, is this going to bring out the carry Chovy? Because he has seemed a little bit like he's been on a slight vacation, you know, just chilling, just realizing that he has so many, you know, very, very reliable teammates that it hasn't been up to him to really step up and hard carry in a lot of their games. He was on a lot of Corky duty, you know, just sitting back, having fun, and then landing the rockets that he needs to in the end.
Yep. 4 of his games were just like that. Liv Sandbox immediately banned the Corky away, did not give him an opportunity. And as we head into this mid-game here for Gen.G, I mean, everything is still fine as long as they don't give up more gold to Liv Sandbox. Like right now, they got the first blood, they got the first 2 objectives, and they will be able to crash a Rift Herald into plates.
Yep.
But as long as they don't give Azaria a double kill or Graves, you know, an insane lead here in the side lane, then they still are going to be able to turn this game around. It's just going to be a very slow and steady start.
No, I agree. And, you know, it's not the end of the world to lose Lospa early on in the lane. We've seen Lee Sins find themselves advantages like this and be unable to close out games, right? It wasn't in our last series, but it has happened in the past. As Croco is going to move up, try and give Dove a bunch of this gold, and Doran is wisely just getting the heck out of here as much as he possibly can.
Realm Warp up for Chovy, but he's pinned down.
Yeah, that's a big old flash in as the Q is going to connect. Nice boot back onto Croco, and that is going to spell the disengage, but they still manage to get the flash. Zenith Blade not going to connect that onto Youngjae as the flash has to come through. Solar Flare's there, and Ice might be getting his first kill of the game. Yep, he's going to grab that one for himself, as now Doran looking for a bit here, but Chovy's moved up. Croco, great safeguard to get out of the way of the Rise after the flash. And the Chovy might still be able to catch up. Let's see. No, shouldn't be able to.
Chovy could have called for, he could have used teleport, but he wanted to actually bait them in, and he pinged it like 7 times onto Doran. Like, let's actually click.
Oh, Superman Death Rocket connects!
There you go.
Yep.
That's the Jinx getting the money early, and this ends up being a fantastic trade. It looked like it was going to be about even, plus all the plate gold ends up being Gen.G favored, because now Chovy's up here, going to get a teleport out. As he's feeling very, very happy about this, is things looking pretty good in the Gen.G camp. Still a little bit of gold behind because of all those plates that went down bottom side and the first blood. But getting that gold onto a Rise, getting onto a Jinx here, you'll be happy to let Dorton take the hit for such a great turnaround. This is a really nice steadfast presence to prevent Kale from coming in. Forces his flash. They will end up getting this on the bottom side of the map. We weren't watching this, and it delayed a lot while Chovy was making the Realm Warp play on the top side. Goes over very far to the left here, expecting that Liv Sandbox and Croco and Dove would actually go away and try to run, but they actually went right side, so they bought enough time, and Croco is able to safeguard out. And then they call for the rocket. He's like, I got him.
Yeah, I really...
He's like, it's done.
Yeah, he said good. Nice. Damn, that was clean. That was really clean. That is the best way to do it, by the way. Even if you have some doubts, don't sound like you have doubts if you're in comms with your friends and you throw out a global like that. Because it's always way cooler.
By the way, one of the problems of this, as we learned last game very, very well, one of the problems of getting the plate gold over to the Graves early for Gen.G is that now he's got Hullbreaker. When we saw this last game, Dove is going to be able to survive through anything in this lane right now. Almost anything.
Yeah. Warren's going to try and fight back. But this isn't like an Akali matchup, right, which is very rough for the Akali. Liv Sandbox will be able to take this Drake, though, and their reign over the neutral objectives is certainly still there.
Yeah, and, I mean, with this Hullbreaker, Dove is feeling very, very happy to kind of just sit up here while the bottom of the side of the map is given over to the Zeri. He's even going to hide in this brush here with a control ward.
Yeah, Doran running away. Not going to battle him as Dove really wanted Doran to come over and fight this one out. And he is going to stop the back. Nicely done.
Nice stop on the back. Will cost him a CS or two here, but we'll clean it up. And right now for Dove, you're like, oh, if you're going to back, I'm going to delay that. I'm going to send my Lee Sin up to this part of the jungle, and I should be able to get this turret. And we'll be able to secure the first turret of the game. Plate falls away, so won't be able to get full plates. But Gen G are actually hovering on this. They do not want to give him that turret gold here. And he really wants it, but he's playing it so safely. Croco's over here. And it's not just Croco. Closer's coming up now, too.
There are so many pings. Great sidestep there on the queue, but the kickback is still going to come down, but Chovy is going to rotate way faster. Everfrost is great. Collateral damage not quite enough, but Closer does find it. It is going to be the exit with the Realm Warp, but that's still a kill going over to the Akali, and Liv Sandbox able to get over towards Shirley as well.
And will still be that first turret blood, you have to imagine. Chovy does not have teleport or the Realm Warp. Will have to take the slow walk up if he wants this. And with this wave here with a cannon minion on it, should be pretty guaranteed. In fact, Doran's got to be really careful.
Yeah, that is the tower going down. Dove comfortably picks that one up for himself. And we'll be able to secure this, I guess. But yeah, Dove so strong now on this Graves. And Liv Sandbox looking pretty good here today.
Yeah, this is a good start. Double Drake lead, early turret gold. The Akali starting to get online, and the next Drake fight, which is the one that ends up being sole point, is going to be so difficult for Gen G as the Steadfast Presence is super early here. So Croco just gets to wait it out and go behind him with the safeguard. Doesn't end up getting picked for it, but it's going to be a big trade up because this is the kill back plus the Realm Warp, which means you guarantee that top turret.
Yep.
So all that money comes through.
Well, Chovy is 30 CS ahead of the clock, so the Rise thing certainly working out. As
they're like, look at what this does.
Again. Yeah.
A lot of regen, big damage, and if nobody's near you, you get resistances and extra damage to turrets and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's a pretty great item for Graves, who's already so difficult to kill because of his grit, and then he's going to be able to get Mortal Shield Bow, and it becomes so frustrating to deal with. Looks like he's not actually building the shield bow this time around.
Oh yeah, no, he should be. It's just different route than
he
otherwise.
didn't go for the scepter. That's what threw me off there.
Yep, got a bit confused, but it's all right. Croco does jump onto the Rift Scuttler, and we'll take that down. Shirley, they're taking a while to get over there. I actually thought that they would really quickly lock that one down just because of how much control Croco's had over the jungle.
I'm also a little bit perplexed by what they're trying to do with the Zeri pick right now. As Chovy
does have flash, does use it as, the helicopter. Not going to quite get the work done, and now Youngjae is going to have to use Ice to taxi his way out. Ulti comes through, and Croco dives on over, finds Lospa, who's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he will be taken down. Closer now, looking for Youngjae, and both of the new members of Gen G are just going to get wiped out.
Yeah. Chovy loses flash too, and I was going to go into a point about how I'm not sure where Ice's role is going to be in this game because he hasn't been able to get any control over the map. He hasn't been given any mid minions at a stage where normally he's already farming that up with the Tiamat completed, but now he's got so much agency on the bottom side of the map. They should be able to guarantee him the spot turret, and then he can go suck up all the minions in mid as well.
Oh, there's an Everfrost onto Dove. He does flash to get out of the way. Chovy very tanky, and tanks up the turret for a while, but they just get a flash out of Dove, and that is not going to make that one worth it as the turret falls down bottom lane. This snowball's rolling real fast.
It really, really is, especially with a Zeri here now. She gets the bot turret, now she can head mid, and all of that farm belongs to her, and it's going to be side lane duty for Closer. Hullbreaker makes you so much more difficult to kill in an already pretty survivable Graves under turret here, so that's why it's just not worth it, and that's why Graves is suddenly back in the meta, I think, is because people have figured out this, Hullbreaker strategy is super successful as we watch how this one's played out. Youngjae just a little bit, out of his element here, way too far up. Steadfast Presence is good, but it's not that good. And Luspa trying his best to try to save him, but ends up dying all the same. But, it was popularized by Illima, the Kwangdong Freaks challenger player.
Yep.
The first person to play it. Now it's really kind of making the rounds.
Yeah, certainly looking good. As Ice finding some electric blasts onto Gen G, and Gen G not looking to give away the first Ocean Drake of the game. As Chovy finds an Everfrost onto Croco just for the slow. And I don't know whether battling for this one is actually going to work, but the range advantage is there for Gen G. If they can land some of these shock blasts, that one didn't connect, but if they can land some of them, Things certainly could be good as okay, Croco. Oh man, I thought that he was coming in. Thought Jonas Strong was knew something that we didn't. But Gen G in the end are just going to back away. Not going to take this. Chovy's going to move towards the top side. He senses minions.
So true. He's like, I see the red dots over there.
Yes.
They're blue on our maps, but on his, they're red. And he's going for them. And, you know, this is one thing that Dove kind of does with this comp is he could stop one of these champions from side laning very well, and that's the Jace. Now, Chovy will still be able to basically survive himself through anything the tankier he gets here with this Ryze build. But unfortunately, not enough agency on the map here for Gen G for him to get any permanent damage to turrets. 2 turrets down here are Gen G, 3,000 gold behind as we head into what will be, as you mentioned, with a really fast Drake fight here, or rather fast Drake take, a very early 4th Drake fight over that soul that Gen G not quite online just yet for.
Well, Dove is going to be discovered, and Gen G do not like him taking all of their structures. They'll lock him down. There is a lot of CC here, and that is going to be Doran that secures that kill. A lot of commitment, though. Let's see whether Liv Sandbox can get anything elsewhere. As you can see, Kale and Ice pushing up the mid lane.
Don't think they'll be able to secure this turret, though. Although there's another wave crashing through. Croco's here. They're not alone.
Yeah, that's the kickback onto Young J, but heroic charge now onto Kale. He's very tanky. Eclipse always gets me, not going to lie. Makes him pretty much immortal, and they'll take the turret as well. Croco just seems to be able to do no wrong. Outside of the fact that he's died a couple of times, he's looked really, really good this game.
Yeah, the Gore Drinker makes you so hard to kill. He's got, you know, really nice angle there, and unfortunately Youngjae has just not been able to time his steadfast presences very well this game, often too early or too late, not able to stop him from getting in there and setting up for the kill play. And that does lead to a turret, actually, because Croco has got the advanced look on this. As Chovy's like,
so Chovy really likes this tanky Ryze because he just gets to walk up to people and not care. He just wanders in. He's like, no, this is my piece of jungle. Allow me to fight for it.
how far can I push this wave?
Yeah.
How much can I go deep into the jungle to try to grab this red buff?
I don't know how much value it's actually going to get, but let's see. As yep, he realm warps his way in here, and this is going to be Dove going down.
Yep. Notice that already a second that this is a showed here for Chovy. Croco looks for the angle here behind Youngjae. And he ults. Steadfast presence completely blocked away by the kick there. Not much you could do about that.
Nope, you need to hit the ult. And he didn't manage to do that, so unfortunately it doesn't really work out. Chovy at 21.5 minutes is at 250 CS. Not too bad. Ruler probably a little bit frustrated, right? Because he's farming extraordinarily well. Sitting at 230, but it's getting a bit dwarfed. That's exactly where Gen G want their money. Onto Ruler, onto Chovy, I guess. I mean, it's hard to really give a lot of credit to the old tank Ryze with how much success he hasn't had here in the LCK, but we saw it work earlier, and that is what's giving me faith.
What's giving me faith here for Liv Sandbox right now, though, is that this Ryze pick doesn't do too much when you're this far behind in terms of how the game is going and the pace of the game, because Zeri's already got 2 items. She's looking for a third real quick here, and the Akali can delete the backline. Ryze's function here is to kind of try to weather the storm and make sure that Liv Sandbox aren't at a 4,000 gold lead for a soul point fight. But this soul point fight is happening pre-25 minutes, or rather soul point, right? They're on soul point, and they're looking for soul. Excuse me, I struggled on my words there.
Yeah, I was getting a bit worried because Croco was lurking, and the vision control here for Liv Sandbox is really getting scary.
But now as Liv Sandbox, you have such a lead that the Ryze's functionality, it's like he's kind of been eclipsed. Like his items are going to help him survive to try to stave off some of the pressure. But with the Zeri already on 2 items, going for that third very soon here. The fact that we have a dead man's plate on Croco so he can zoom around.
Oh no, it's the ruler spot. Oh, but he has flame chompers.
He's on.
And Croco doesn't go for the Q. So
lost was here.
Yeah, we're going to be okay. I got a bit worried. That was definitely ruler spot.
It was definitely a ruler spot, that's for sure. Gen G not online yet, but they can't ignore this fight. Like, they're not in a position where they're happy to take this. They don't have prio, they don't have control over the map, but they can't give this up. So it's going to be a desperation attempt here. At least they've got all their flashes up. We're going to have to see some heroics here.
Yeah, Croco standing behind this wall as they do lock down the blue buff for themselves. Liv Sandbox setting up for this potential siege. Solar Flare comes down, doesn't exactly find the stuns, as that is a great steadfast presence as they're playing protect the Ruler. It's exactly what they need to do, but can Ruler stay alive? Croco says no, picks up the kill. The bottom lane has been wiped out, as there's the flash over. Young Jay is also dead. Closer grabs that kill, and Chovy and Doran, nothing they could do. Completely routed in that moment, and that is going to be Ocean Soul going over to Live Sandbox.
Now, you don't have a choice here as Gen G. You have to fight for this. You have to look for something, but you're really so far behind that it's not a realistic fight to take, as Chovy himself is now trying to get some CS and might get punished for it. Croco does not have ult.
Yeah, Phase Rush is pretty powerful. Finds the Everfrost there as well. Let's see whether they can kill Chovy, and they've decided they can't. Yeah, he's very, very tough. Not exactly a lot of damage threat, but still able to stay alive.
They can maybe look to start a Baron here. They're, with a pretty fed Zeri at this point. They have the vision control, but they're not going to start it, just going to secure the scuttle and also make Gen G react and come over here and make sure they're not doing it, and then they'll be able to take more control over the map.
As Doran, oh dear, Closer is going to dive on top of him. This guy is so strong, but he's going to miss the Shuriken backflip. Croco dives on forward as, Doran does, a bit of damage in the meantime. Dove teleports in, and that is a very dead Jace, and that may spell Baron.
This is a real tilter for Gen G. How this game has started off here, things are really starting to ramp up. 4-0-3 on this Akali right now is Closer, one of his favorite champions to play. He's ready to carry.
Yep, and in goes Kale right into the back line. Does not have flash as Ruler trying to get Closer off him, but he's not going to be able to. This Akali is just having a field day right now. The perfect execution comes in, and Chovy finds himself back in the same position under a turret with no damage.
Yeah, he's got no damage, but he's like, I'm living, but, I don't have any functionality in this game. He can't peel enough in this
He's a Hoover.
Yeah.
He's a Hoover. He hoovers up the minions.
He should have been in that new Kirby game in the Direct this morning. Kirby eats a car, maybe you should eat Chovy instead.
Yeah.
I mean, in fights like this, you have no choice but to try to group up and get prio. You have the control ward, but you're making yourself vulnerable. And even with the ult here, like, Zeri's not in this fight. This is basically a 4v5 that Live Sandbox is winning right now because they're just that far ahead. There's a good solar flare. And if Akali gets on top of Ruler, what's he going to do? Chovy can't heal for him. Just watch the solar flare come through with the Zenith Blade, and then Closer's just like, Ruler, I'll follow flash you over the wall all day. And Chovy's like, I can't stop all of them. They're all so fed.
Yeah, and Young Jay as well. I don't think he had the steadfast presence or something to stop Kale from initiating, but it was a really nice Zenith Blade to get the Leona exactly where he wanted to be. And now look at what happened. Look what has happened. Closer is sitting at 6-0-4 on this Akali. It's like, who cares? He's down like 63 CS or something like that. Chovy hasn't died this game. The rest of his team has definitely been struggling though, and Closer has just been a highlight reel when it comes to locking down these kills. Chovy might die here. Okay, they almost got a fifth of his health bars. That is, what the heck? Are we playing Pong now? That was the weirdest situation. It is still going to be this inner turret going down, and a very happy Teemo.
Well, they get the Chovy flash, and he survives, but the turrets aren't. And, Zeri in a lead. We haven't seen Zeri really have this much of a lead in a mid-game. But just look at her clear the waves. I mean, we talk about how she can clear waves and how she can, absorb minions in mid lane and give you prio, but this is actually like Siege Zeri. This is very like, I'm going to end your inhibitors, Zeri.
Well, I mean, this is Croco and Closer show, right? Like, there's not even very much room for ice this game because this Lee Sin Akali has been doing so much work. Gen G now just getting encroached on. It's a couple of siege minions here. Ruler and Chovy going to deal with them relatively comfortably. And I don't even know whether our conversation about scaling and options and things like this is even worth it, as the Ocean Soul is there. We've got Elder Drake coming up in 2 minutes' time, and the Baron still has a minute left.
I mean, the ability for Closer to wipe anybody out makes it really difficult for even Doran to position himself in a way where you can actually hit these shock blasts and threaten the Zeri, who, mind you, has a stopwatch and can survive through almost anything because of that. Has her 3-item spike. He's going to pick up a BF sword here as they approach to control more vision here. Now, they haven't gotten an inhibitor just yet because that's basically going to be the last nail in the coffin. I don't think they'll be able to set up for one before this Elder Drake, but there's not much Gen.G can do except sit back and farm. They're like, I'm hoping we're scaling, but you're just too far behind at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're hoping for a mistake right now, and this definitely isn't one of those. That is going to be a kick onto Chovy. That's going to cancel Doran. Unfortunately, he's just going to die as the ult comes through from Youngjae, but it's too late once again. And Doran, suffers. Good kick to interrupt the Realm Warp. Made Doran look very silly.
It has not been a great game for Youngjae here either on this Poppy pick.
Him and Lospa not looking like it right now. It's really unfortunate. Of course, not something that you can really blame them for, because they are coming in to really save the day here for Gen.G. As now the dive is going to come forward. Chovy trying to tank things up. Lospa trying to do the same thing. As look at all of the AoE coming forward. Ice. It looked like he was throwing out autos. Nothing was missing. Nothing was hitting.
He's just like got a tornado around him the whole time with all of his AoE. Yeah. It's just absurd the way the animation looks as he fires.
It was just so funny because it was like he was stutter stepping and then like just out of range on each of the Qs. Oh dear. Very funny.
There's 30 seconds before the Elder. They're going to look for the reset, as this is where things get really dire here. Chovy is tanky, but the kick away here onto Chovy means it's so much more difficult for him to peel for Doran, and even though the ult goes off here for Youngjae, they're not able to stop him. A reset here for Liv Sandbox before this Elder Drake means that Gen.G have one chance to sprint over here and try to get Prio.
This is certainly a last-ditch effort right now as Closer dives in. They do not want to wait for any sort of flip as the Realm Warp going to be cancelled immediately. Closer just having the best time ever. Zeri locks down that kill. Already 3,000 damage for this Akali. Dove going to start off this Elder Drake because he likes doing stuff by himself. As Youngjae now just in a brush, getting chased down by Zeri. He runs pretty quickly, but this is still going to be Elder. Collected by Liv Sandbox. Joey's killing minions, of course.
Elder
in the mid lane as Ice should be able to take down Youngjae here. Does so very comfortably. Super Mega Death Rocket not going to steal the Elder. Nice try, though.
Elder plus Zeri plus Akali that's this fed is, I mean, they could basically just walk across the map and this is just the most Chovy thing ever. I'm going to try to hit 350 before we lose this game because I want everyone to know my CS number was high at least. But there's nothing he can do here. What's he going to accomplish?
No, exactly. He may as well steal a blue buff. Just do something. Do whatever makes you happy at this point in time because it's looking very difficult for Gen.G to find any way back. Mini stun onto Lospa there. The Elder Drake still around Liv Sandbox as they've exposed the Nexus. Here's the last team fight as Lospa's going to get taken down. The big dragon will destroy him. And Chovy standing on his fountain trying to get the AoE, but the Nexus will go down whether they like it or not. And game one goes to Liv Sandbox.
Might have a bit of an upset on our hands here. The question is it really an upset with some of the struggles that Gen.G are having? You look at the nameplates alone and actually have those closer-esque moments. Might be the way you have to win this after what we saw there. We saw that Lospa is not reliable necessarily in lane at this level.
Yeah.
It